Now, the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues on Charleston's Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, folks, as the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA. So I want to talk about investment real estate. We work with a lot of different types of folks, whether it's a first-time home buyer or someone that wants to buy a second home, or someone selling their first home, or selling their last home before they move into a retirement for anything in between. We sell a bunch of land all over the state. But we also work with a lot of investors. I myself am a real estate investor. So aside from helping people buy, sell, and invest, I do it myself. I put my money where my mouth is, right? So over the course of the past, 15 years, and just the millions of dollars that I've spent on either renovations or investment real estate, it has positioned me very well. And in given, of course, what I do, I routinely have opportunities that we just find based on the number of folks we talk. I mean, think about it this way. My real estate team makes about, 10,000 phone calls almost every week. It's a lot of phone calls, a lot of conversations. And so we have a lot of opportunity that comes as a result of all that hard work and time spent on the phone with folks, either in response to an inquiry or in trying to find opportunities for our clients, which is a lot of what we do. And so I want to talk about, if you're thinking about maybe buying an investment property, I want to tell you what to do and what not to do. And this is from, again, years and years of experience in wins. I lost one time. I did lose some money on a deal. I bought a piece of land in North Charleston, just a bank-owned property for like $4,500. And the neighbor was dumping a bunch of trash on it, and the city of Charleston kept bugging me to clean up the lot and the trash that everybody else was dumping on it. And so I finally just said, enough is enough, and we sold it. And I think we lost a few $100, but pretty good track record of making money in real estate on the investment side of things. So let me tell you how to kind of proceed if you're thinking about getting into the real estate investment game. The first thing I will say is that you can either decide to do this on your own, or you can hire the help of somebody experienced like me to coach you through this process, identify opportunities, and represent you throughout it so that, the mistakes are avoided and we win. But if you're going to assemble a team, you need to take a few things into consideration. Number one should be your real estate agent that's going to find you the opportunity and negotiate those deals for you. Number two should be a really good lender if you're going to finance the property, so that you have an understanding of what the cost of borrowing that money is on a per property basis. You need that for an analysis. You need a good closing attorney. There have been instances with some folks that I know personally that go after bigger multifamily projects. And, one of them found out after sinking in about $100,000 that there was a title defect, and they are not able to purchase the property because the seller can't sell the property. And so that money's just gone down the drain. Tough lesson to learn. But when you have a really good closing attorney that can perform a title search, you can try and get ahead of some of those issues before the money you invest is just lost. But let's start with something simple here. Let's say that we have found a property and we want to see whether or not it would be a good investment. I think if you're an investor, a true investor, then you have to analyze the opportunity for that particular property against the likelihood of taking that same amount of money and investing it in any other vehicle possible, right? We have to look at real estate as an apples to apples comparison to something like, stocks, or giving it to your financial advisor, or, there's a bunch of different ways to make money with your money, but we needed a system. We need a process that allows us to look at the property through clear lenses to determine whether it makes sense to buy it or not, because it's the opportunity cost of your cash not going into something more lucrative. So let's say we find this property. Well, we need some information in order to analyze this opportunity. We need to understand how much we can buy it for. We need to understand how much it's going to cost us to buy it. Lender fees, closing costs, closing attorney fees, home inspection, all this out-of-pocket expense associated with acquiring the property. We also need to determine whether the property is in move-in condition, if repairs are necessary, or if it might make sense to renovate the property if we can achieve a higher rental income figure. So that, of course, takes us to the next thing, which is how much rent do we think we can get for this particular property in its current condition, after we repair it, after we renovate it? Looking at the analysis and the ROI, given those three different scenarios: buy it and rent it as is, do some repairs, do some renovations. Then we also need to take into account things like how long it might take for you to find a tenant. Because while we're looking for the right tenant, that property is sitting vacant and expenses continue to accrue. So we call that vacancy loss. We also need to know about taxes and insurance, how much you're going to pay in principal and interest on your mortgage if you're deciding to finance the purchase, repairs and maintenance, reserve funds, HOA fees, landscaping. There's a bunch of different expenses, of course, that we need to account for. And then after we've gotten all that data, then we can start analyzing the property in a few different ways. Now, the way that I prefer to, and sorry, there's one more thing here, and that is, depending upon how well you do on the purchase price, you might have an immediate kind of amount of equity in the property. That's a bonus. But then you also have appreciation that occurs over time. Now, calculating that can be a little tricky given the extreme ups that we've seen over the past few years. And that's one of the mistakes that people make, is either underestimating or overestimating the cost associated with doing something like renovating the property, or how much they can buy it for, or how much they can get out of rent, so on and so forth. So you really do have to take your time with the data to make sure that the data and the assumptions associated with that data are as close to accurate as possible, because that is where a lot of people get burned. They just don't have the experience. They just don't know on average how much things are going to cost given the things they might want to do, or they just don't have the tools or the resources necessary to determine what that property could and should rent for. That's where having a team comes into play. That's super helpful. So after we've collected all this data, then it's, of course, time to analyze it. Now, here's how I prefer to analyze my investments. I want to look at the return on my cash. So if I'm putting a 20% down payment on the purchase of a property, after I deduct all of my expenses and I'm left with my net operating income, what does that return look like for the cash that I put down to acquire that property? Different people are going to have different requirements in terms of a return on their investment, or how they analyze the return on their investment. But I like very simply looking at, all right, if I gave you $100,000 at the end of next year, how much has that grown? And there's certain percentage points that I need to see in order for me to play red light, green light on the investment properties that I analyze, interpret, and then present either to myself or to other investors. And frankly, that's what a really good team does for you. And that's I think hard for some folks that have not been in this world before, because some of the agents have not been in this world before. In fact, a lot of them haven't been in this world before. They may have assisted somebody in purchasing a rental property, but they probably don't own them themselves. And don't get me wrong, there are plenty of agents out there that own a bunch of real estate. I'm one of them, and that's why I do what I do. I use my income to create wealth through real estate ownership. And it's a fantastic model, and anybody can do it. And you can do it with as little as, $500, believe it or not. And if that's something of interest to you, if you want to get into real estate investing, you don't have a lot of cash, but you want to know how to stretch that as much as you possibly can, then give me a call. I'll walk you through exactly what to do to start building up your nest egg, growing that pool of money that you can use to invest in real estate so that you can, inevitably go and take down bigger, better projects or projects with better ROI. But after we've gone through the analysis, that's really what we need to do to play kind of red light, green light on investment opportunities. Too many people add too much emotion to the process of investing in cash flowing real estate. In other words, you need to establish expectations and build your box, essentially, that properties need to fit within, and the returns that you need to see in order to know whether or not you can pull the trigger or not. Now, the way that we analyze things is we say, all right, well, the data is the data. What purchase price do we need to acquire this property for in order to achieve your required rate of return? So if you'd like to see that analysis tool, I'm happy to give it away. So here's what I'd like for you to do. Send a text to 843-800-0065, 843-800-0065, and just text me the word calculator. And I will send you the spreadsheet that we use to analyze our investment opportunities. And it's going to show you a bunch of different ways of looking at the return on the investment, cash on cash return, cap rate, after tax return. Taking into account, let's say that you buy a property with a mortgage, you've got mortgage interest deductions, you've got appreciation, you've got all kinds of great things that need to go into those calculations. So again, if you want to text the word calculator to 843-800-0065, I will send you that Excel file. Of course, you can call me. We can chat through your goals, and I can give you some direction there, see if I can help. Or, of course, you can always just go online, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com, and contact me that way. Last thing I'll say is that a property management company is a really big part of this process. If you want to do it yourself, good for you. But most of the time, people don't want to be bothered with the phone calls late at night of, hey, the toilet's running or the AC isn't working or so on and so forth. And we've got a whole team of professionals that we have on speed dial that can handle all those situations for you. But if you want to check out a property management company, go to Beatty, BEATTY, MGMT.com, BeattyMGMT.com. All right, stick around, folks, for more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Broadcast Saturday mornings at 9 and Sunday mornings at 10 on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.